You are now entering the realm of white hot business. This is where we get real about why what happens in the bedroom and your body is a reflection of your business confidence and visibility. I'm your host, sexologist and business mentor Lauren White, and I'll guide you to become the sovereign, magnetic, and sensual woman that's available for more success and satisfaction. Access all areas. It's time to transform your business from lukewarm to white hot. You are in for a treat. We are going into the depths of what a white hot business looks and feels like. I am titillated to support and introduce, as you'll hear, today's guest. She's a hypnotherapist specializing in supporting people who are experiencing intense relationship anxiety and low self-worth to overcome their anxiety and return to the secure, calm, and confident self. She says, anxiety always tells a story that this is forever, and that's mirrored in the general support world with the message that you just have to accept it. But the truth is, and her truth is, that anxiety is an experience you can move in and out of when you do the deep subconscious work that's needed to release it. And that's what she supports people to do, all in the name of feeling incredibly deserving of love and to thrive in their relationships rather than always worry about when's it going to end. She's my favorite Gemini sun from the north of England. She is fierce, she is grace, she is climactic, and she's also incredible at witty repartee. Her name is Rosie Cathro. Rosie, welcome to White Hot Business.
Oh, thank you, Lauren. What an intro.
I may have had some help with it.
I like the bit on the end.
Yeah.
That was all you.
The little cherry on top. Speaking of cherries, I hear that you are popping your podcast cherry by being on White Hot Business. How are you feeling about that?
I'm so excited. I've listened to so many podcasts over the years, and you kind of answer the questions in your head yourself. So it's amazing to be here and be in the hot seat.
You are in a hot seat. You're in a white hot seat right now, and we are going to delve into the power and pleasure of having a niche business, because when I think niche, I think of you, and I think of how much deep success you've had having that focal point, and we're going to share with listeners in today's episode a lot more about what that's actually like. So before we go into your business, I just want to share that we've been working together for almost a year now, and what I've witnessed in you is you've made absolute magic happen to create what I see as a white hot business. And for listeners tuning in, we're very early on in our journey of what is a white hot business. And it's one where we're real about why what happens in the bedroom and your body is influential to your business confidence and visibility. And I just got goosebumps down my lower legs. Rosie will hear that every second session that we have. That means it's my big yes from the universe. So the universe is going, yes, and turning me on in the process. And the reason why we want a white hot business is it's all in the name of finally becoming the sovereign, magnetic, and sensual woman that stands firmly in her power and pleasure for more success and satisfaction. All my favorite words bundled together. Rosie, what I'm wondering is, can you share with us why you describe your business as white hot? And when you have, what are some of the key ways that you make your business work for you and who you are?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the first things that springs to my mind is that there are so many shoulds out there of what you should do, who you should be, and who you need to show up as in order to be deemed as credible. And I think a really interesting thing happens when you're early on in your journey, that I was thinking about it just as I was getting ready that, I used to behind me have my certificates, and I felt like that gave me, credibility. The credibility is in the value that I give my clients and the transformation, and that means nothing. So it's for me, it's moving away from everything I feel I should be or who I shouldn't be, if I should hide parts of myself as well, and actually just creating a business that feels amazing to be in.
Mm. Yeah, most definitely. I'm laughing with you because I remember starting my sex therapy business, and where I put the certificates, the certifications was the most important thing in the office. And then one day I just went, and just took them down and went, I know who I am. I know what I'm here to do. Everyone who comes through, no one's saying, can I please sit near you and your certificate? or your or your qualification. And I'm laughing with you about that one, because what I'm hearing from you is you're tapping into the self-regulation, sovereignty piece, that you have integrity in your work, and that is your certification. That is your special power. That is your superpower in your work. And I'm just wondering, what are some of the key ways that you make your business work for you and who you are?
I think one of the first things that we focused on was where I was people pleasing in my business. And that was all around things like scheduling, the people that I was working with, actually having, raised standards around who those people are, and, not operating from that lack mindset of I need to work with everyone, I need to appeal to everyone, but actually being really strong in this work is really solid. And there are a unlimited number of people that need this work. And this work is for those people, not for everyone. So that's really big. And then lighter things, like smaller things, like I love rock music. I love loads of different types of music, but I love including that. In my Instagram stories. I wear my band t-shirts in the summer when I'm not like just snuggled up in jumpers and stuff. And that's me. And I'm not needing to turn up in a suit. I'm not needing to turn up in any sort of way that's just, this is me. Like, do you like it? Do you want it?
Yeah. It's I've definitely noticed that about you, and definitely noticed that like one song will be like so like soft and la la la, and then the next one will be like AC/DC or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So kind of contrast. And I love that, because what you're speaking into in terms of having a white hot business, a business that you love, is you're showing all the parts, and you're being the role model for, you don't have to just be this one static thing. You can be dynamic, which is what women are born to be. Femininity is incredibly dynamic. It's multifaceted. It flows. It is, beautiful and simple, but so complex at the same time. And that's what you role model so beautifully in your stories. And I imagine that anxiety often feels that way, as like quite dynamic as well in a number of respects. Can you speak to us about, because you've chosen to work specifically with relationship anxiety, and this is a powerful and pleasurable niche for you, hence the podcast title of today's episode. Is there a connection for you in your personal journey that formed your business? Like, do you have your own story with relation and experiences with relationship anxiety? Is that what brought you to focus on this group of people?
An interesting one, because I think a lot of people do that, where they've gone through an experience and then on the other side of it, then they support people. Doesn't feel like the natural course for me. Although if you'd have asked me a year ago if I experienced anxiety in relationships, I'd have said no, because I was in in the nicest possible way, very stagnant relationship. I think I do have slightly anxious tendencies in that I love connection. I really want to feel loved. I'm looking for that person that is going to make me feel all those things. but it doesn't feel like it's coming from an anxious place because I've done my internal work on it. So there probably has been some sort of journey that's been like low level in the background. But for me, it wasn't the thing that led me to this work. The thing that has led me to this work is just constantly trying to understand myself more and constantly trying to figure out how I can, firstly, figure out that I wasn't being fully myself in life, in all of the different areas, that there were a lot of masks that I was wearing without even any recognition of that fact. And then I think it's like, well, how do I put down the mask and how do I be more fully myself? So there's a real, it's like the path that people take in overcoming relationship anxiety is very similar to many other paths. And I've trodden a similar path, but it's not been the exact same one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. It does. Are you willing or able to share a little bit more about how the path is different or was a little bit different for you? Same, but different?
Yeah, sure. I think, if I look back to when I was really little, like my mum always says, like, I never used to talk at school or, anywhere else. I just used to give people hugs because I was so shy and there was so much that was just keeping me contained because I didn't dare break out of it. And to see like where I am now is like shocking in terms of transformation that's occurred.
Yeah.
But it's always been a sense of, as you reach the next stage and the next stage of your life in breaking out of that shell. That's probably why I love rock music so much, is because around the time of like 14 to 18 or something, that was like a real thing that brought me out of that shell and that I could be that person. But it's only one dimension of me. And I think relationships have always been the biggest thing in my life. I've been really focused on wanting a good career. I love to have a nice home. I want to build a really beautiful life. But the thing that means the most to me is my relationship. And I have always previously chosen people that are just a really bad fit for me, just not the person that I should be with. And I think that's a huge thing in that. Firstly, we need to learn what we need and who we are behind all of those masks that we present to the world.
Yeah.
And then we need to figure out, like, well, how do I actually bring that into my life? Because it can feel really scary to do that or impossible. And there's a lot of subconscious work that has to be done in order to kind of break down those barriers.
Yeah.
So my journey's been really focused on, why am I finding myself in these deeply unfulfilling relationships time and time again? And that is a huge theme in my work with people, because some of my clients are, in really amazing, loving relationships with incredible partners, and yet they still feel incredibly anxious. But the majority of my clients probably have a history that's similar to mine of finding themselves in really unfulfilling relationships or in a current relationship that's really unfulfilling. Some have potential, some they kind of realize, actually, this isn't the right thing for me, and they move out of it in a really empowered way. But I think that's the similarity there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel that. And when people come to work with you, what are some of the first things that or aspects of their life, anxiety or relationships that you focus on? What are some of the ways that you get a better understanding of what's brought them to that point?
We talk a lot about their journey, what's showing up for them now, the ways in which they're experiencing anxiety, because there are so many similarities, but also it's unique to each person. The first session that I would do with someone is instantly to teach them a technique to literally release anxiety there and then. So I'll guide them to find some anxiety that's happening for them, and I'll actually get them to lean into that anxiety and increase it even more so that they can see, actually, this is something I have got control over. I can move into it.
Yes.
Or can I also move out of it as well? So we crank it up. And often there's this look in their eye where they're like, what are we doing? Like, are you sure about this? And then they do the technique and it comes all the way down. And there's just this incredible moment of them realizing, like, wow, I don't have to live like this. And there are going to be all of these different ways that I'm going to learn that this stuff actually works. So that's a really important first step. And then the rest of the session is all around building a very strong foundation for them to return to calm. And it's not just in the sense of that surface level stuff, but it's about reaching the depths of yourself. And we go to like this blue lagoon where they get to float and they feel supported and they feel held, and they're able to come back to this place of safety within themselves that was always there. They just couldn't access it. So
Yes.
I always think that's the most important place to start, because without that strong foundation, you don't have that sense of safety within yourself to be able to change all the other things that are happening on the surface or
Yes.
sort of above that feeling. Safety is
Yes.
needed.
Yes. And that's where, and thank you for sharing that, because over the last year, we talk about your business, but we're not spending our time together talking about everything that you do in a session with clients. So that's really illuminating for me to hear and to piece it together from what I've seen on what you share more publicly on social media. But I'm also hearing the mirrors between our work. It's about going deep so that you can rise a bit higher. And Rosie and I have talked about this, that the whole premise of becoming climactic, which is my program where I work privately with women, is to go deep so that you can rise higher. And just also speaking into that foundational piece and supporting your clients to activate that sovereignty rather than feeling like they need to submit to anxiety, that it has control over them, that it dominates them. And it's just really beautiful to notice the mirrors between our work and why it's effective, to just go to the places that feel daunting or scary relatively early, because you actually get the most relief by doing that rather than having those parts of you stay hidden. So this is really beautiful for me to hear, just where there's that overlap with our work. And
I think that's why your work resonates so much with me, and it seems like such a good fit for me.
Yes. Yeah. I can really see why now. If that, I know I'm a year late with this.
I know, that's so funny.
I can really see why now. I can really see why now. You've mentioned masks in our time together, and I'm wondering, some of the masks that you've had to really dissolve for yourself, if you could give those masks a name, what would you call some of them? I mean, you talked about, I think, people pleasing earlier on. Are there any other masks that you can identify that you've actively dissolved over the years?
Yeah, I think a really big one is the idea of, the mask that's all about, look how hardworking I am, or I can do it all. And I don't need support has been a smaller theme, but I think just I am so hardworking. It's just such a one for me. And to give you like a little bit of context, I'm the person that moved up north because I wanted to buy a house, and then I set about making that happen. And like working loads of jobs and training as a hypnotherapist at the time, and working my full-time job and other jobs on the side, renovating my house when I bought it, and doing all of the things. And it's like that almost became my personality in some respects, when it's actually just a mode that I was in. It was helpful at the time. But actually, once I got into my business and, eased out of my corporate job and came into this work full time, it wasn't a mask or a mode that was helpful to continue in, and it really needed to go.
If I say martyr, does that resonate?
Yeah. It does. And I know when I first thought about that, because it was one of the things that was in your messaging a lot when I signed up to work with you. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that's really it, but I do think it's like this side of it. But in hindsight, yeah, it was, I give everything. And actually, I don't need to give everything of myself, and I don't need to get to that point of burnout. I can do it from a really different place.
Yes, yeah, you can do it from a sovereign place, which you do now. You do it from that sovereign place. And the thing about the martyr and what you were just speaking to before, it was all about everything going from inside of you out, inside out, inside out. And the issue with that is, it's like the question of, where's the receiving happening? And there is some pleasure in it. Like, let's be honest, there's pleasure in being in martyr mode. It gives you some sort of validation or affirmation or, impetus to keep going and doing it. There is a payoff there. I don't want to ever deny that, the power of that mask.
Look how capable I am.
Yes. Yes. Like just when I was listening to you, I was like, where's the receiving? Where's the, what can come back to you and how you can there's no lean back in the martyr mode. There's no. There's no luxuriating and surrender. It's very much like, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And that's where so many women in business get burnt. And they go from, they might have been white hot at one stage, but then they go lukewarm and then they kind of, fizzle out and maybe even burn out. Yeah. I'm wondering, just for the women listening that do have a business, you've mentioned mask of people pleasing, trying to make sure everyone's comfortable. You've mentioned the martyr mode. And I'm just wondering now if we can go back to relationship anxiety. If there's a woman in business listening that experiences relationship anxiety, is there a connection there in how that might show up in her business? Like, have you bridged those kind of worlds together before? Like, someone experiencing relationship anxiety, how might that, if maybe it's playing out in a subtle way in their relationships and it hasn't quite landed yet, how might that relationship anxiety be showing up in her business?
Well, the thing about anxiety is the more it is unable to be around, the bigger it gets, and it just grows. And you kind of think, oh, there's just this one area where, this is impacting me, but actually it's everything. And it's like how you tie together, your business and the bedroom.
And
all of that stuff. So I haven't worked with someone with relationship anxiety and sort of that self-employed running their own business, but I have worked with someone last year who was dealing with anxiety in general and also running a really beautiful self-employed business. And there were so many things that it was like, I feel this in this area, and it was showing up in her business. And so the main focus of our work was around the anxiety, but the impact then on her business was huge, because then she was able to be more boundaried, to show up more in a way that felt good to her, to release those places where she previously felt like she was lacking, and actually to see herself in a whole new light. So I would say everything is linked. And the analogy that I always give is that this is from one of my early supervisors, Marion Robb. She talked about, cogs. Yeah. And you think that you're just moving one, but you don't realize it's linked to all of these other ones. And you move one and it moves all of them, and everything shifts. And it's just the perfect analogy for it, because things don't happen in isolation. Things show up everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, you're bang on. You're right on. Marion's right on. And that's a really powerful visual that I just received right there, listening to you. And I was kind of, when I think about your work, and first of all, I just want to say I'm so grateful to be a witness to your work. And I feel like I've just learned so much. Like, the words relationship anxiety, I'd never seen those two concepts, I should say, put together before. Like, it's so interesting. Before I started working with you, I'd never seen those two words together. I'd definitely heard of sexual anxiety and codependence and all sorts of other things, but to actually put relationship anxiety together was new for me. So thank you. I feel like I've learned so much from you over the past year. And I was just having a think about women in business who do have anxiety and maybe feeling anxious and maybe not as secure as they could. And your program has got a beautiful name. It's called Secure. Yeah. If they're not feeling as secure as they could, I wonder if you could talk about what overcompensation might look like if something's not working. If that anxiety is there in her relationship or around her health or around another aspect of being human, just wondering what might be some like red flags to you that someone's experiencing anxiety in their work, in their business? Maybe if there is that overcompensation from not feeling secure in other parts of their life.
Yeah, I think it's so far reaching, so it makes total sense that it's going to show up in that area. And I would say the things are that anxiety wants you in your head constantly, thinking through things,
Oh,
focusing on things. It's like it sells you. I've got like this character for anxiety in my head, and it's really multidimensional. So on one hand, anxiety, its priority is always to keep you safe. That's the whole purpose of your subconscious mind, is to keep you safe and alive. So often we can build this really big bad character about anxiety, that it's trying to destroy your life or ruin things for you, when actually it's trying its best to keep you safe in the only way it knows how. So there's this element of safety, but there's also this other little persona that I play around with in my sessions and my messaging on social media and stuff. That anxiety is almost like the salesman that overpromises. That's always saying, well, or the partner that you think, well, if I could just do this, if I can just give you that, then you'll be okay. And it's that
Then.
then. And I think that could
Yes.
show up in so many different ways in business, in that it can be, I have to have more qualifications. That's a huge one, particularly for someone that's
Okay.
early on in their journey. And by early on, I mean like the first probably 4 years potentially. And it's totally dependent on the person, but that one can show up for a while, can't it? So needing more qualifications, being too scared to niche because you're worried about there not being
Ooh.
enough.
Oh, I hadn't put those. Oh, yes, of course. Oh, like, of course. Yes, sorry. Yes, of
Yeah,
course. Being too scared to niche because, and the thinking would go, if I niche, it's that scarcity mode again with the bit like, who would come for this? I'll lose X amount of business. Where might that thinking go if someone does feel too scared or anxious to niche?
absolutely. And probably another one to add to it is, who am I to niche in that? Because before you launch into your niche, you aren't necessarily the expert in that area. But boy, when you niche, like, your work picks up so much momentum so quickly.
Yeah, which is what happened to you. Can you share a
Yeah.
little bit more about your business journey,
Yeah.
and how that turned around? Because I mean, I might have had the behind the velvet curtain look, but yeah, just if you can share a bit more about that, I think listeners would be fascinated.
Yeah, of course. So I qualified as a hypnotherapist, and I started working with everything that you might expect a hypnotherapist to work with. So things like weight loss, stopping smoking, driving test nerves, um, what's the other one? Anxiety, all sorts of things and everything. And I actually think that's really good training wheels for when you first start work, that you don't necessarily niche straight away, because you want to find out the areas that you're drawn to. And
Yeah.
actually, when I was first training, I wasn't interested in anxiety whatsoever. I was interested in what I thought was the deeper work, not realizing that the deeper work is the thing that will solve the anxiety. So I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about all of the deep stuff. And I didn't realize that those two were so inextricably linked. So it is really good to do that for a while, I think, in that particular profession, but there's no rules. So I did that for several years. I had my baby. I moved from, full time in my corporate job doing this on the side, to then part time, doing more of this, kind of half and half. And then I had my baby, had mat leave, had a year off with her, launched back in, and quit my corporate job completely, and thought that I would have the same success that I had prior to mat leave, and it just wasn't coming. And I spent probably almost a year just feeling like I was putting so much out there, and the stuff that I was doing previously just wasn't working for me. And I was, just constantly learning, because that's who I am. I was like learning more about the actual session work, but also about marketing, and trying to grab like the freebies that people were offering, or like the
Oh.
5 day challenge that's like, come and work with me after. And I think some of them, the right ones, can be really valuable, but it's not enough.
Mm.
Um, And so I reached a point at the end of 2022, it must have been, where I was like, right, something's got to give. Like I've got to find a thing, and there's obviously a gap, and I don't know how to do this on my own. So firstly, I signed up to a 3-month coaching container with Gemma Gilbert, who's all about marketing and messaging, and that was incredible because I learned about stuff like like your email list, welcome sequence, lead magnets, like the first thing I did was defining my niche. And I had an extra one-to-one with her, which I'm so grateful I did, because I don't know if I'd have figured out that I really wanted to do relationship anxiety without that proper conversation. I came with 2 options. I was like, right, so I'm thinking either weight loss or anxiety. And we decided on anxiety. And she was like, right, but you're not just going to do anxiety, like get specific. Like, who do you want to help? And what is the impact that's happening in their life? Because you need to find that person that needs to work with you now. And that was one of the most important moments, I think, in the evolution of like my business.
Wow. Yes.
So by the end of that
Powerful.
session, I was like, it's relationship anxiety. And then I sat with it and I was like, oh my gosh, I have supported so many people with this and I'd never seen it. Like I knew that I was supporting them with that, but I'd never joined the dots that actually all of these people were being drawn to me to help them with this particular issue. And I just got so excited about it the more I thought about it and delved into it and, focused my messaging around it. So that first 3 months of last year, so 2023, was incredible because I just really, I learned a lot of skills. And those skills were fundamental in this shift in my business. But at the same time, I knew that there was a greater depth to me that needed to come out that could be activated in this work. And your messaging was just resonating so much with me. And I just wanted that. I'd followed you for years. I loved everything that you said. And I loved how you showed up in your business, which I got at the time. It wasn't necessarily going to be that I would show up that way because we're such similarities, but we're different as well.
Yes. I'm glad you said that. Yes, I'm glad you said that. It's not about, just to speak to anyone listening, it's not about being with the mentor so you can show up exactly like they do. It's about tapping into the energy that they show up with that you want to uniquely express from yourself. Is that a good way of putting it? Never sign up with someone to be a cardboard copy of them because you can't be that. You can't do what they do. But what you are looking for is the activation of the essence that has been activated in them, but your own version of that. So it's not going to look the same, but the power of it is going to be magnetized on a similar or the same frequency wavelength as them. So I'm really glad you said that because I'm not looking to create an army. No mentor should be looking to create an army of people with businesses just like theirs. It's about what can they activate? What can they activate in you? So thank you for sharing that. And you came in, and it's really beautiful to hear you were following, you heard the words, you heard the messaging, and you came in at when I'd first used the word climactic for the work. Like you came through for that piece. And I do have another podcast episode. If it hasn't been released at the time that this one's been released, it's about to. No, it should be out in the world, but it's all about how like your perceived fuck ups in business are actually can create the most climactic outcomes. And you working with you has been an incredible example of that. Not that I'd ever call it a fuck up, but I launched a group program, but I just didn't put enough structure behind it. But I knew the juice of it and the marrow of it, but I didn't quite set it up with enough structure. And you came through for a call, and then we started working together one-to-one as a substitute. And I'm just wondering if you can share more about your experience of that. You received that incredible work and that activation around the messaging and the niche. And then what did you need by the time that you signed up for Climactic almost a year ago now?
I think the main thing I needed was to really come back to my strength within myself that wasn't that kind of trying, pushing, coping strength, but was a really different kind. And it was about rediscovering who I was, what I wanted, and very much so, probably more so in my personal life than my business. Although I really do believe that, just as you, that the two are just, they're the same thing, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but personal life particularly, like business life, I was starting to see some traction. I think just before we started working together, I had a reel that did so well, and I got like 8 inquiries and 3 new clients, and I was like, yes, this is amazing. And at the same time, like I just knew that I needed more. So I think one of the main things that you helped me with was I had this knowledge that if I signed up to work with you, that life was going to be really, really different. And that the ways that I had been kind of trying to press myself into this shape to fit my current life circumstances at the time. And I'll be open here, like I was in a relationship with a really great bloke, but the relationship wasn't alive anymore, you know, and I was, you know, just there was so much pressure on me to try and run this business and raise this baby and, you know, run this household and try and like reactivate this relationship and all of these different things. And actually what I needed was, rather than dealing with the stuff on the surface, was to go deep and figure out like where I was in all of this and what my true needs were. And that's what you supported me with so beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah. And you went there. And I just want to take you back for a moment to something that you said before we first started working together. I'll never forget it. I need more of what I probably don't even know I can have.
Yes.
I'm going to repeat that for people. How powerful is that? You said, using your words, I need more of what I probably don't even know I can have. And I'm repeating that not just for emphasis, but for anyone listening who is saying yes, yes, yes. Just knowing that you need more is enough. That's all I want to say to people, is just knowing you don't have to sit with it anymore. You don't have to chew on it. Don't just sit with it on your own. Just find someone who can extract what that more is for you. And just knowing that there's more for you without knowing what the more is enough in itself. That's all you need to know. That's where you can start. And those words have really stayed with me. What would you say to Rosie a year ago who said, I need more of what I probably don't even know I can have?
Oh, just like, well done for taking that leap, because there was that whisper within and it felt almost like a strangled scream at times that I needed more.
Yeah.
And yeah, I needed to follow that voice. And I completely agree with what you said before, and that you don't necessarily have the answers when that voice is there, but you just need to take those steps to follow it through to figure out what's behind that. And it's like that, you know, that bit, I don't know if you've seen Frozen, but that bit where it's like the voice of the unknown. It's like she didn't know what was there. And same as me, not that I usually compare myself to Elsa, but there's that thing where anxiety will also say you need to have all the answers now, you need to have everything figured out now, and you don't. You just need to follow through. Or there's an instinct, there's like an energy within, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I followed it, because all of the things that I thought were the things that were keeping my life feeling whole and complete, like my relationship, which, you know, I've left that relationship, I'm living in my own house, I'm thriving, I'm really happy, it's all worked out really well. The things that I felt so attached to actually weren't the keys to my happiness. They were the keys to like the prison of that time in the unhappiness that we were all experiencing.
Did you call upon your own work and methodology during that time?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, massively. And I think one of the things that has been the most significant thing is just how I speak to myself, that I'm always in my corner, and that I have unshakable self-belief, that I'm just like, there's like this really kind voice within me that's like, this is so hard right now, and you can do this. It's both,
Mm.
and it's an acknowledgement. It's not turning away from the fact that things are difficult. It's turning towards it and going like, I'm here with you, and I know we're going to come through this other side. Because I think so often we can get that balance really wrong. And I always experience it with my clients that their internal world is so critical. And so, it shatters any hope that they have time and time again when they're trying to pull themselves out of where they're at.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And you've really helped to elevate that, because I think there's just the language that you use and the concepts that we talk about have made me realize that more that I was looking for, that you've helped me get in touch with that. And you've role modeled it so beautifully as well, in the way that you've guided me, and, the way that you are in yourself and your messaging that's out there and where we go in the sessions.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's got to be access all areas, and it's got to be, like, in my opinion, it's got to be the words, it's got to be your body, it's got to be your business, it's got to be your bedroom, it's just got, in my opinion, we don't compartmentalize any of that more and go, just want more in this part of my life, and everything else can just stay kind of, and when I say small, I don't mean beautiful small, I mean contracted small, kind of shadowy small. It's like we want it all, access all areas, and it's completely possible. And I'm really grateful you mentioned the words. The words are a massive part of it. The words that you use, the words that you speak, the way that you speak to yourself, the way that you write, all of it, it's you've touched on a really beautiful point of that honesty, that acknowledgement, and that reconciliation. So you can speak the truth and say, this is what's going on, this is shit, this is hard. And what I also know to be true is, like, I'm up for this, I will see this through to the other side. That's where I think we strike a really good balance, and we elevate, and we can welcome in that more, because we aren't dropping into shame spirals and guilt, and we're being honest. Honesty is really important, and allowing space, possibility, inevitability for more. So I love that you love the words piece, and that's part of what's been so fun to work with you, is the word piece, the word part of the word.
Because you don't always encounter that out there in the world, do you? That knowledge of that it's so important. And it's like a playground, isn't it? Language is a playground.
Yes, definitely. One of my favorite, like, just I don't know if you've heard the term sapiosexual, but it's like you're turned on by a meeting of the minds with other people, and I'm such a sapiosexual. Like, I need to have that intellectual connection to be really interested. There has to be some sort of flame there, up with, like, the conversation and the words and all of that. And it's been a big part of the joy and pleasure of working with you is I know that I can say, hey, have you read this book? Because we all need, when we love books, we all need another book, don't we? But it's been a wonderful part. So thank you for mentioning that. I just really want listeners to hear how powerful the words are in who you work with, how they operate as a vehicle of influence, and then how you absorb and receive them and make them your own. Like, again, it's that piece of, like, it's not about speaking like your mentor. It's just about listening to the style of language and taking some parts of it, blending in your own. You don't have to ask something I ask all the time, and I give you lots of permission in sessions. It's just like, does this turn me on? But, like, whatever kind of self-inquiry you want to ask around, does this turn me on? It's just make the words work for you, make them your own, and keep using them on repeat in order to craft that new language and new reality. That's the point. Rosie, what do you do to allow more power and pleasure into your business? What are some of the things that really do it for you? because you work for yourself, so you can do whatever the fuck you want.
I never like that.
Yeah, what feels good in regards to what you create, how you create, when you create, just if listeners can get a bit of a bird's eye view.
Yeah. I think one of the first things that I loved was just working completely online was really freeing for me. Because I'm very sociable, but I'm also very introverted. And I really love that. I feel like it's a really good it just works for me. And my energy is better in that sense. So that's been a really good thing. Shaping my hours. I love to have this sense of freedom. So as I mentioned, I've got a little girl who's just turned 3. I want to be the absolute designer of my life and doing that very intentionally. And I love creating a life that really feels like the right fit. And it's not a one and, like do it once and it's done kind of thing. It's like all the time I'm looking at, well, how could this feel better for me, for her, for, how could this be better for the business? And so that's really important to me. Having fun, I think just bringing a lightness in, that it doesn't need to be serious suit certificate on the wall, that it can be just, this is me, this is something from my brain. That feels good. I think elevating my prices is something that feels really good. And I'm always working on that. So I'm always nudging them up and up and up, and figuring out where the right spot is in line with the value and the transformation that I'm offering. Yep. And to be honest, I see pricing I see it as a reflection of where I'm at rather than my work. Because I know I could charge so much more for my work for where it's at, but it's where am I at with that? And so it's the evolution of me stepping into my power. That feels really good, to be exploring that and not to have it as anything that ever feels fixed.
Yes, it's fluid, it's nimble, it's changeable. And it's great you brought that up, because there are listeners going, well, wait a minute, maybe I just put this price tag on it because it is worth that. But you've tapped into a really powerful part of pricing, which is it's where you're at. Like it, in fact, first, like you have to be so aligned with where you're at and having the number feel in alignment with that in order to sell at that price. Otherwise, there can be that misalignment and your head or your ego is going, but I know the work is worth this much. And there's no debate about that. It is worth that much. But, and if you're not completely reconciled with that, it won't sell. Like it ends up creating a real bottleneck in terms of cash flow for the business. So very important piece there. I love how you deconstructed that one, because that is number one. Like, where am I at? And looking at the numbers and then looking at the value, which you'd think it'd be the other way around. But I think that's where people can get tripped up. Where are you at? Where are you? Where you're at is gonna influence the pricing like nothing else. Not your clients, not the market, not what you think you should charge. And I remember just because you're not the only person that I've worked with that does this, but I remember you were thinking, when we worked together, you're thinking so local. You're thinking about where you lived specifically. And
yes, that was another change.
Yeah, that was another big change. You were thinking, but I live here. And this is so common, by the way. I worked with someone just recently that was like, I live in this location, therefore these prices. And I went, you live in that location, but you can work all around the world. Like, don't let this suburb in X, outside of X city, tell you what to charge when your clientele could be the whole world. And I remember you saying, but I live here and this person charges this much and this much. And now you're global, baby.
Literally. I've got clients from like all over the world. It's amazing. And it was a rising up out of that local hypnotherapist identity that was
Yes.
one of the key pieces in shifting my business. Because, people do session by session round here, and you might get a package of like 4 or 6 sessions. And there was this whole evolution of like, well, there are people out there that say, well, one session with me is going to solve it. I mean, I call bullshit on that, because you can't go deep enough just in one session to solve the depth
Yeah.
of, this area. Um, so it was like, well, can I do it something for 3 months? Because hypnotherapists don't normally do this, but this is a really big, significant area of someone's life. So there were just so many different questions around it. But it was so freeing to break out of that group of hypnotherapists and just go, I'll do it my own way. Like, I'm going to figure this out, and I'll figure out the best way to serve my clients, how I can get them the best results and run a business that feels really good to me. So important.
Yes.
So otherwise
Yes.
you show up with resentment, don't you?
Yes. Yes.
You're
This is the
you're
whole
wanting
point.
to offer someone something, but you're not able to give them the full thing because you're trying to play it small, because you don't want to have a big price or a longer program. So complicated, isn't it? But
So
so
it's so complicated, and no one wins. The client
yeah,
doesn't win. The practitioner or the service provider doesn't win. Like, no one wins in that scenario. And you are speaking my language of how you see it and how you know, not think, but know deep down in your sacral center something should be designed for the highest good of you and the client is everything when you have a personal brand. And I
yeah.
want everyone to really hear that, because it's too easy, as you started our conversation, to go into the shoulds, to go into the, but Joe Blogs down the road says this and practices this way. And it's like, no, no, no. You're your personal brand. You don't belong to the old systems you used to work for.
Yeah.
You belong to you. How do you feel and know deep down this could be best designed given who your ideal client is, what it is that they require, what it is that they desire? That is like the key piece. And I know that that's why you've been so successful. One of the big reasons, I should say, that you've been so successful in your work is you've got that clear messaging and that clear process that works and gets those incredible client outcomes.
Yeah, and it really does, because by the end of my program, my clients really do have that result that I've said, hey, this is what we're going to do. And some of them, that's great, and they're ready to fly then. And for
Yeah.
others, they're like, I have loved this work so much, like I want to do the next bit. And that's in
Yes.
like coming, way up here in their evolution of themselves. And that's incredible. But yeah, I could so easily have fallen into the trap early on of putting out a smaller offer, fewer sessions, less support, because I didn't want to say it's this much. But it's congruent with the work that's necessary.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's most important.
Yeah. I'm really glad you've shared that, because I don't think there are enough business owners that are truly offering what it is that they know in their bones is the congruent way to put their offer out there, given the topic, the client, the length of time it takes. And I just see so much BS on mainly my Facebook feed. It's like people just put these splashy kind of like knee-jerk, shocking kind of like, in one session they
Yeah,
dissolved all of their money blocks and all this sort of stuff, and then received X amount. And I go, there is zero context in that post. We have no idea. Like,
yeah,
just putting my critical thinking hat on, I just go, wait. I go, there's no context. That money
yeah,
could have been something that was already in the pipeline, that
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm really glad you shared that, because I'm very mindful of anything that's rapid, like rapid. Which we won't go there in today's episode, but I'm very mindful of fast, rapid, one session, complete dissolving, cleared X. And I imagine that you must see that in the hypnotherapy world a
a
bit.
lot.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot.
and a lot of people dithering about on the surface, even though there's so much more you can drop into.
Yes.
Like the difference between going there and the person figuring out what's going on inside them versus a different way that you can use hypnosis, which I weave in, but it's a very small part, which is giving suggestions, which is telling people,
Oh,
like the affirmation that you need to hear. But that's not the thing that creates lasting change. So you need to go down deep and figure out like what's here, like, and what do I need to do with this, which is what you do in your work as well, because I've
yes,
experienced
very
it.
much so. Yes, very
Rather
much so.
than, you could easily release, affirmations going, I'm powerful, I'm, sovereign. And it's like, well, but it doesn't mean anything and it doesn't
Yeah.
change anything.
Yeah. No, I'm so with you. We're so on the same wavelength of that depth and that excavation and finding all the treasure. And I really believe in that being the most sustainable pathway, because when you get there, you can make a really clear decision. I'm no longer curious about I've gotten what I need from going to those deep places. I'm no longer curious about the behaviors that have me teetering on the edge of going back to some of those places and revisiting those really shadowy parts of ourselves. You can really have that sense of integration and reconciliation with them. Whereas, yeah, I'll just speak to what to what we do, but I just feel like that is, like, for me, that is what a quantum leap is like a year of really going deep is what's going to give you a massive leap or a massive, a word you've used is transformation, is by going deep and doing it in a really sustainable way to create behavior change, internal change, and to create that new language. That new language, you cannot adopt new language overnight or with one session. It just won't land. The brain will just go repel.
Yeah.
Doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not mine. I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think there's another part to it where it's like not seeing those shadowy parts of yourself or the parts that have held you in a place previously where you didn't want to be for so long as fixed, because you don't need to, like, that shadowy part of you can grow and evolve as well. So that shadowy part of you isn't always going to be the thing that pulls you back, but actually it grows with you and those parts change.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's my favorite. That's my favorite part of it all. It's like, oh, hello. And you can kind of rub shoulders. It's like you're at a dance party. You can just kind of rub shoulders with those parts and have a little boogie rather than be like, no, get away. Like,
Yeah, but they can literally like transform as well. Like I've had
yeah.
sessions with people where we've literally changed that part to some a different, completely different character, completely different part, so that that's their support part in that area. And that's no longer that person that, was too fearful, almost like the parent that's like, don't go out there and get hurt in the world because
Mm.
you might not be okay. You don't want that part running that. So you can literally upgrade it. And I love
Yes. Yes. I love it too. Rosie,
that.
what would you say to anyone who's listening who wants a white hot or a climactic business, but is feeling like they can only do things a certain way? Like maybe they're stuck in that mode of anxiety. What would you say to them if they're becoming aware that they want it, but they still feel held back?
I think the main thing I would say is that the anxiety that you're hearing within yourself is never going to be the thing that gives you the message you need to be able to rise up out of that. Anxiety's message is always going to keep you in that space of anxiety, playing small, trying to figure it all out on your own, feeling that the things that you want are, kind of pissing on your dreams, basically, just trying to keep you in that small, safe place. So there is that voice that you can listen to. But if you've also got that voice within you that's going, there's more for you than this, like you deserve more than this, or I don't know how, but there's something different for you. Explore that instead. and, you know, tune into the people that you're resonating with. And I completely vouch for your work. I think it's incredible, and it's been utterly transformational for me. So I can't recommend you highly enough. And I was thinking about it last night, like, I can't imagine a time where I'm not working with you. So I hope you still always offer a spot for me, because I'm with you.
Oh, you're with me. You're in one of my VIP lifetime contracts, Rosie Cathro. I am happy to lock you in.
I'm totally here for it.
No, I totally understand that feeling, and it's an honor. It's a pleasure. It just brings me so much pleasure working with you. I just can't even. There is no quantifying it, and I would love if you can share with everyone where we can find you online, and if you can just share a snippet about your incredible program, Secure, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, of course. So the main place I hang out online is on Instagram. I love it. I love the music, the images, it works so well for me.
Yes.
So you'll find me there on my stories all the time, and I post a lot as well. And I think the feedback that I get from my clients is just that often they follow me for months on end with every single thing resonating. And then they just reach a point where they're like, I've got to reach out. So if you're interested in this work, it's a great place to find out more about it. And you can sign up to various things there. Like I've got a guide for how you can tell the difference between anxiety and your intuition, because they can often sound the same.
Yes.
But they are so different. They are the two different voices that we've been talking about.
Yes.
So you'll find me, I think it's Rosie Cathro Hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
And if you want to join my email list, you'll get that via signing up to that thing. And I send a lot out there. There's my website if you want to take a look, which is www.rosiecathrohypnotherapy.co.uk. And a little bit about Secure. So my program, Secure, it's 3 months working one-to-one with me. And across that period, we work across 2 different levels. So the first is how to equip you with everything that you need in order to get rid of that anxiety straight away in the moment. And that is so important, because it enables you to get back control of your life where it feels like anxiety is dominating everything. You can literally, in the space of a minute, come back to that calm place within yourself that is hearing a whole different message inside of you. And the other part of it is us delving into that deep subconscious work, where you are releasing those messages that previously held you so tightly in that ball of anxiety, and actually coming back to the knowledge that, and the knowing within yourself, that you are secure, you are so beautifully deserving of love, and changing everything that's going on there, so that rather than feeling like the bottom's going to drop out of your world and your relationship at any point, you feel secure, you feel loved, and your relationship thrives. So it's really powerful, and I really love it.
Amazing. I know we can all feel it like pouring out of you. You love it. Your content is incredible. We're going to go full circle. You have created and are nurturing a powerful and pleasurable niche. And I just know that you've been put in this position because it's creating untold amounts of impact. And I just want to say to everyone listening, watch this fucking space with Rosie, because there is so much more. To use the more word, there is so much more to come. In the meantime, follow her, send her a DM and say hi on Instagram. We'll put all of her links in the show notes. Don't be shy. Tell her what the most powerful takeaway was from today's episode, and she will send you a beautiful, warm, her words are just so warm. They're like a warm hug. She'll send you a beautiful, warm message back. And if you're hesitating on saying yes to yourself insecure, don't take the leap and listen to the whisper over the anxiety. Rosie, it has been so wonderful to have you on White Hot Business, and I am just on the edge of my seat, waiting, like ready to witness the next chapter with you.
It feels great to know that you'll be by my side. So thank you for everything.
Thanks, Rosie. I trust that you were activated from today's episode, and if you're naturally left wanting more, you have several white hot options available to you. If you want to make this your most climactic year in business, head to the Work With Me page on laurenwhite.com.au to find out how you can be seen and forever transformed. Not right for private mentoring, but want tangible steps to go from lukewarm to turn on? Get your free 10 days of turn on for you and your business at laurenwhite.com.au/turn-on. And if you yearn to give a little back after crushing on the podcast, hit subscribe and leave a captivating review so that more women can access the possibilities of a white hot business.